I'm Opah, and this is Opah's Place. This is 4th of July, Independence Day. Everybody's got good at calling it the 4th of July. It's actually Independence Day. If you ask most people uh, what happened 248 years ago today, they probably don't have a clue. They just know they got a paid holiday and a day off from work, and they're good with that. But this is the day that the Declaration of Independence uh, was signed. The British colonies go back to the year 1600. Let's give you a little foundation leading up to the signing of the Declaration of Independence. In 1732, the last colony, that would be Georgia, that's the 13th colony, it was established in 1732. Now we're talking about 1776 and the Declaration of Independence. So look how tight that timeline is. In 44 years, what caused the colonies to go from being colonies to wanting to secede from Great Britain? Most of the people in the colonies were content. They had the protection of the greatest military in the world. They had good trade with Britain and Europe and Asia because of their relationship with Britain. And then came the French Indian War, 1756 to 1763. Notice how tight that timeline's getting to 1776. And Britain had to pay for that war. And like today, when they have to pay for a war, they need more tax money. So Britain said, look, we came over here, we protected the colonies, we need more tax money than what we're getting. So at the time, the British the British colonies were actually paying about a tenth of the taxes that were levied on the British citizens in England. They were paying basically 1 to 2% of their income, but they didn't have an income tax. It was just amounted to that much money in tariffs. The income tax didn't come along till 1913, after we became the United States. So they started the Stamp Act. British put what they called a Stamp Act. And what that was, it was a tax. Anytime you had a legal document or whatever that needed to be notarized, is what it amounted to. Had to have a legal stamp from Britain on it, and they charged you a tax to stamp the papers. So they called it the Stamp Act. That started in 1765. See how close we're getting to 1776. Then they started the Townshend Act, and it imposed tariffs on things that were imported from Britain. And it was china, glass, lead, paint, paper, things that could not be manufactured here in the colonies. So they put a tax on it. Now they rescinded everything in 1770 because there was such a fuss about it. So Britain repealed everything except for the tax on tea. Now that led to the Boston Tea Party. We all heard about that. That was in 1773. Now we're getting 1773. So after the Boston Tea Party, they decided, man, we got to do something to punish these colonies for acting up like this. So they put the Coercive Act into force, which basically replaced some elected officials that the colonists had been electing, basically replaced them with bureaucrats, unelected officials. So we're talking taxes and bureaucrats are unelected officials. That sound familiar? It should. So here you got the colonies, they're paying 1 to 2% of what was their income, but it was in tariffs. They didn't have an income tax at the time. And in 1775, we were already having some skirmishes break out. Lexington and Concord, the American militia, the colony militia, which was basically farmers with guns, they started fighting British soldiers because they didn't like what was happening with taxes and the bureaucrats that were replacing elected officials. And then on October 1775, King George said, I'm going to send a bunch of Navy and Army over there to put an end to this skirmishing with my British soldiers. So he sent more troops over. So this caused more friction. In 1776, January of 1776, just 6 months, 7 months before the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Paine wrote a book called Common Sense. You can download it on the internet. You can download the PDF copy for free. And the colonists, he said the colonists had the opportunity to change the course of history. They could secede from Britain and start their own government, a limited government. And he's the one that coined the phrase, government is a necessary evil. Now, that was in January 1776. In June of 1776, the Continental Congress got with Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Roger Sherman, and Robert Lewis to write the Declaration of Independence. Well, they all got together and they decided to let Jefferson write it because they said he was a better writer than they were. So Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence for the most part. At that time, there was less than 1 in 3 of the colonists that were in favor of secession from England. They said, well, it ain't too bad. We're paying 1 or 2% of what we make in tariffs, and it's not really that bad. We got the protection of Great Britain. Everything's good. I don't know if we won't cause any trouble. Well, the Declaration of Independence was adopted July 4th, 1776, 13 years after the end of the French Indian War. And the Revolutionary War actually ended in 1781. Now, there's a movie, The Patriot. You may have seen it, you may not. If you hadn't, you need to look it up and see it. If you've seen it, watch it again. It's a story about a bunch of farmers who put their life and liberty and treasure on the line over a 1 to 2% tax on tariff tax, no income tax at that time, and freedom from a tyrannical government of unelected bureaucrats. And we, the people, have been taught to allow their sacrifices to go in vain in a very short period of time. Freedom's been being chipped away since 1781. We have people that would prefer the government telling them how they should live over freedom. I want you to take out a pen and a pad, mark a line down the middle, make 2 columns. In one column, write the things you're free to do without any government involvement. And on the right-hand column, write everything you do that has some sort of government control. That second column is going to take several pages. The first column is not going to take hardly anything at all. I'm not sure you're going to be able to put hardly anything in that first column. That second one, though, man, every single thing we do is controlled by the government. So what I need you to do is watch The Patriot, do a little bit of research. I found that the History Channel, their website, is a good place to do some research on history. You still have to be careful. You still have to use some critical thinking. If something ain't jiving, if something ain't right, use a little critical thinking and logic, and maybe dig a little bit deeper, do a little bit more research. But for the most part, what they've got to say is pretty good information. Now, when November comes, we don't let these guys who sacrifice their life, liberty, and treasure for our freedom to have done so in vain. We have to turn this around, head back to the vision of our founding fathers. 241 years ago, we were given a great gift at a heavy cost, freedom from an over-controlling government. It'd be a total stupidity to let that gift be wasted. We don't want to have to start all over again and gain the freedoms that we have now. History will judge us if we wasted their sacrifice. Another note right now, this has been a hot summer so far. All summers are hot, but this is about walking dogs. I see people walking dogs on hot surfaces. If it's too hot for you to take your shoes off and walk on it, it's too hot for your dog to walk on. I see posts on the internet from vets where dogs have got the pads of their feet burned real bad from walking on hot asphalt, hot concrete, hot surfaces. So if you've got a dog and you walk it, keep that in mind. And if you know somebody that walks their dog, be sure to let them know. They may not even be thinking about it. Now, as usual, I'm going to show you this. I wrote a book for my grandkids, and it's called Things Everyone Should Know According to OPA. It's a good book to read. You can get it on Kindle. You can get it on Amazon in a digital form. Uh, I think it's $5 on there. Or you can email me at opasplace.com. I can get you a hard copy or a personalized copy of the book if you'll email me. So go down below, subscribe, like, share. The more people that we can educate, start critical thinking, we got a better shot at saving the Constitution and the Republic. And like I always say, apply critical thinking in everything you do. Always ask why, and for goodness sakes, never give up. If the Continental Army would have given up and the militia and everybody would have given up back then, we'd probably still be living under British rule and be worse off than we are today, believe it or not. So never give up. You don't want to be living like Venezuela or the Middle East or some of these South American countries. You just can't imagine how bad that would be. It would be horrible to have us, our kids and grandkids, and all living in that kind of condition. So we got to get it all turned around. So until next time, this is Opa. Thank you.